Well, I'm back at my bookshelf again, and I just thought, whenever I did my one video on never being bored, I just showed the outer layer of some of this stuff. And what I'm going to do tonight is show you some of my automotive reference material that I use, some of the material that I've used to educate myself in the past. I'll start from here. Actually, from this end, this is the more basic stuff that I guess for the most part really isn't that important to me. And then I'll just scan across here some of these books. And then as we go along, we get into a little bit more advanced stuff, a little bit more important. Most of this stuff here contains information that I learned at a pretty young age, working with my dad when he was racing. So, and then after I had that knowledge, then, well, that wasn't good enough. I needed a little bit deeper understanding. That's when I started getting into these sorts of books here. And I'll pull a few of these out here and show you. Set of books that's really good is these, The Internal Combustion Engine in Theory and Practice by Charles Fayette Taylor. He was really one of the early to mid pioneers of internal combustion engines. An awful lot of the advances that came as far as like a lot of the fundamental advances, he was pretty much responsible for him. And he had a brother, E.S. Taylor, I see on a lot of NACA documents. I'm not sure, Edward S. Taylor I think it was, but the two of them and then some other guys really did a lot of the fundamental research on internal combustion engines to make them what they are today. And this is one heck of a good book. And you can see by all the different bookmarks I've got in here, it's obvious I referred to this book quite a bit over the years. Have bookmarks, areas for detonation. There's piston form for less fuel sensitivity. There's a section on petroleum fuels I have a bookmark on. Effective fuel on SI engines. There's a Turbo Blue card I was looking for a while. Mixture requirements in SI engines. Just straight down the line, this is some really good stuff here. Just plain engine design. Illustrations of various engines. Piston design. You see I'm even using old subway napkins. Poppet valves. Exhaust flow capacity. Valve capacity, head design. This is all some really good stuff. You really want to know how an internal combustion engine works. Pull yourself away from the car magazines and get into something like this. It's a pretty heavy reading, and I'm not an engineer, so some of this I just plain don't understand, but regardless, I've really learned a lot from this. And, oh, there's something interesting. That was actually, apparently my dad was looking into this book one time. This is his writing. Yeah, that would have been quite a while ago. He's been dead 10 years this February, beginning of February. So, but yeah, two volumes. That was volume 2. This is volume 1. You can see how often I've used volume 1. The pages are actually coming apart on this one. But same thing. Inlet Mach index. That's a very important thing. Just one thing right after another. This series of books is excellent. Heat losses, mechanical friction in engines, effective compression ratio and performance, basic performance measures, performance of unsupercharged engines, and then somewhere in here there's performance of supercharged engines. It's really good stuff here. And you can see how often I've used those two books. Next one here is also a classic text. I got this at a library book sale at the one I talked about in one of my other videos. Internal Combustion Engines by a gentleman named Lester Twisty. I think this was written in 1939, if I remember right. Yeah, 5th edition, 3rd impression, 1939. Another excellent book, and actually kind of surprising. I was flipping through here the other day and I kind of forgot about it. 1939, they're talking about coefficients of discharges of orifices, manifolds for inertia supercharging with actual formulas in here. Like I said, this is 1939. Effects of pipe diameter. So there's really nothing new under the sun. This one here, combustion chamber and cylinder head design, talking about turbulence and how to create it and the effects of it. Another very good book. One mistake a lot of people make is they seem to think that a book from, say, the 1930s like this one, or even those two books from Charles Fayette Taylor, which I think the original copyright on them might even have been in the 1930s. I'll look in here and see. I think the copyright on this is like 1992, 93, something like that. Okay, I guess 1960 was the original copyright date on that by the looks of it. And then this edition would have been 1992. But don't make the mistake of thinking that these books are obsolete and out of date, because this stuff doesn't change. This book here, Diesel and High Compression Engines, it was alright, but there wasn't that much good information. Now, here again, judging by the bookmarks, here's two slightly newer books. Theory of Engine Manifold Design and Design Techniques for Engine Manifolds. These are both excellent books as well. And as you can see, with all the bookmarks that are in here, I've definitely gone through this a lot. And one of my goals at one time, at some point, and it may happen with this engine I'm going to build this spring and summer, is I want to actually build a few versions of an intake manifold and see if I can't possibly have increased performance over what you actually buy from Edelbrock or Hawley or Wyand or whoever. But there's a lot of really good information in these books as well. Even some information on two-strokes. The Theory of Engine Manifold Design. Of course, this is a companion piece. You know, you can see there's pretty good stuff in this as well. A lot of good information. If you're someone like me that's always trying to improve on this sort of thing and always trying to gain knowledge, these books are really the way to go. Like I said earlier, pull yourself away from the car magazines, because most of the time they're trying to sell you parts. They're doing a lot more selling of parts than they are teaching of principles. This is where it's at right here. These came from the SAE's Society of Automotive Engineers, which I was a member for about 13 years. I finally let my membership lapse this year because they concentrate more on green technologies, which I guess that's the future, but it really has no interest to me in my 40-year-old junk that I work on. Now here's another classic text that also has extremely good information. Scientific design of exhaust and intake systems. An awful lot of the what's that invoice for something? Carburetor kit from 2001. But again, this is a older text. I think originally was written maybe in the late 1950s, early 1960s. Yeah, 1962 it looks like was the first edition. 1972 is the last time it was updated. So yeah, some of this stuff is dated, but at the same time, an awful lot of the principles haven't changed. I've seen on Amazon.com, I've seen complaints from people about how they don't deal with fuel injection at all and this and that, whatever, but yeah, there really wasn't much as far as fuel injection back then. But still, this is a very good book, and actually, from my understanding, some of the early pro stock racers really studied this book heavily. Guys like Grumpy Jenkins and Jack Roush. Yeah, Jack Roush at one time was fielded a pro stock team. I think Wayne Gap was his driver. I can't remember. It was Wayne Gap and Jack Roush. I believe Wayne Gap was the driver and Roush was the guy that actually built the engines and everything, if I remember right. But yeah, a lot of these guys took this information and built a lot of the first really successful pro stock teams. So obviously it's not that, it may be dated, but there's still, again, good information in this book. So let's see, this get kind of long. I guess maybe what I will do, I'll stop right there, and then I'll start in with some other ones, and I'll do this in multiple parts. I'm already up over 12 minutes, so I'll stop right here, and then I'll start part 2.